3, 2.
Right?
You got to go silent. I think you go silent at like 3, right?
I think you do.
There's the cat.
There's my cat. Yeah, my our new kitten. So.
Oh, what's the name?
Macy.
Oh, awesome. Yep, my girlfriend and I have a Beagle Australian Shepherd mix that's napping in the other room. Her name's Zoe.
Nice.
Actually, I took her to the spa today to get her nails done.
Fancy.
She deserves it. She deserves the best.
Yeah. I can't lie. My cat's actually, her full name is Wilma H. Macy because she's orange and she's a girl. Sorry, I'm going to have a crack of beer here. But
absolutely.
We have a boy cat who's also a ginger cat, and his name is Ron Howard. So we had to keep with the names.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
So, but yeah, sorry, I think I cut you off there. Go ahead.
I don't know what I was saying, but it's virtual happy hour. So cheers, sir. Cheers. Hanging out with Ryan Dix. Is that your last name? Dix?
That's my last name.
Yeah, because I had no idea what your last name was. I just knew your name was Ryan. Hanging out with Ryan from the Canadian punk band Old Wives. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. First off, thanks for taking the time to hang out, and Happy New Year's.
Yes, Happy Early New Year's.
New Year's. New Year's Eve's tomorrow.
It's New Year's Eve.
It is. That's why I started drinking at 10 a.m. today. I did exercise first. I got to get in at least some time on the exercise bike on my days off to kind of balance out all the junk I eat and the beers I drink.
Right. And I do the same thing. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to drink this many beer, I have to run this many kilometers or miles, depending.
Depending who you're talking. I am American, so I prefer miles. Yes.
There you go. So I've got to run this many miles to drink this many beers. So.
You've been having a good holiday season?
Honestly, yeah, it's been great. Band wise and things like that, it was a little hectic between that and regular day job work. With the album coming out and launching and all that stuff. But it's been great. Everyone's been really positive. The feedback's been great. So we're pretty happy over here.
Nice. Do everything all right?
Yeah, just a cat. Don't worry.
Again, I like the fact that your guitar neck's just right there in the picture. That's fantastic.
Right? That's it.
Fender?
It is.
All right.
Nice. It is. I can back it up here for a second. I'll put it back, but it's
nice.
Fender Stratocaster.
I can barely play. I know a couple chords, but I'm itching to get a Strat. Or a Telecaster. A
Telecaster, yeah. Honestly, I just went back to a Strat, and I mean, hey, I'm the bass player in the band, the bass player and the singer for Old Wives. So, I should have a bass here, but no, I just went back to a Strat after a long time of being like Gibson. I gotta have Gibson. But this is like my main guitar now for everything that I do. On guitar, which isn't nice. A ton.
As much as I want a Telecaster, I want a bass more. I want to get a bass, and I just want to master that.
It's so easy.
I know. that's why I want to do it.
Yeah.
Slap in the bass.
I can't even lie and say, "Oh man, it's really hard. You're gonna have a hard time." It's not. It's really not hard. Some of us try to make it harder than it is because we get bored and we're actually guitar players. But hey, it is what it is.
Indeed. Do anything fun for the holidays?
Fun? No. No, honestly, it was it's quiet. My wife and I live in Edmonton,
yep.
Which is on the west coast, or not west coast, but in Western Canada.
Yeah.
But my wife and I are both originally from Nova Scotia, which is on the east coast of Canada.
Oh wow.
All of our family and everybody's back home, so Christmas is kind of quiet out here, so which is fine by me. Like it's great. I enjoy the hell out of having a break from work and being able to have a beer at 9 in the morning or whatever it is whenever I get up.
And there's nothing like a good breakfast beer.
Right? I know.
For me today, I mean, I didn't have a breakfast beer. I had a shower beer today after
I
I
was going to
exercised.
say,
That's
breakfast
the next
beers are a close second to shower beers for me. Shower beers are great.
They are, man. Just
Yeah.
that crisp coldness when you're in the hot shower, it's awesome.
Yep. Every time.
Yeah, I've pretty much honestly, I've spent my day most of today just drinking and playing video games. And honestly, it was quite hard. It was a little hard to pull myself away.
Well, thank you for taking time away from video games.
But
and drinking beer.
I knew how important this was.
It's honestly, the people need to know.
They do. That's fine because I'm just going to go back to that probably tomorrow and
Right.
until I go back to work Tuesday.
Yeah. I feel you. Honestly, it's going to be. I don't even know. Like, we're not even doing anything for New Year's. My wife is working. So first year ever that she's worked on New Year's. So I'm just gonna hang out. I'm probably gonna play guitar. Play video games and shoot the shit. So.
Yeah. We're not going anywhere. My girlfriend has a cold. And we're too old to go out at this point for anything. That just seems like a hassle.
I always say, like, unless we're playing a show on New Year's Eve, or unless there's like a really good like punk rock show to go to for New Year's Eve, like, I am not leaving the house, or I'm going to a house party or something. I'm not going to a club by any stretch.
No. Those days are behind me for sure.
They're way behind me.
They've also led to some of my worst hangovers, which I don't miss. So I'm fine with that.
Right there with you. Yeah. Right there with you.
Why don't we mention what we're drinking? What are you sipping on there?
So this is a blonde ale from a local Edmonton brewer called Sea Change.
Nice.
So these guys started up a few years back. They've had mega success here in the city, and beyond, for that matter. So really great beers. This is I think this was the original one that they put out with the blonde ale. It's my go-to. It's my favorite. It's but really I don't think they've had a miss yet. So
is there? I don't know anything about Edmonton, honestly, outside of anything hockey related. Because I'm a hockey fan, but is there a big craft beer scene up there? Is there a lot of like small craft beer type enthusiast places and stuff like that?
There really is. It really started taking off in the past couple of years as well. There was, when we first moved out here, there was just kind of a few breweries that were within Alberta. And it was hard to find. Like, you had to, it wasn't popular in liquor stores and things like that. You really had to seek them out to find them. But now it's the liquor stores here. It's like they have a whole section. Half the beer coolers are craft beer and local beer, and it's great to see, because it's, like I said, great. A Sea Change logo is great beer from right here, and it's true. It's awesome to have friends involved in breweries like this, and to be able to support them is awesome, and vice versa. They do a lot for us too, which is nice. So yeah,
that's awesome. I'm drinking a local place, Active Ingredient Brewing, Freudian Sips. It's a Kolsch.
Freudian
They're very science. In fact, their motto there is science by the pint. So the last podcast I did, I was up there a couple of weeks ago with the two owners and brewers and their pharmacists that got into brewing. So it's all science heavy names and stuff like that, which is awesome. The beer's really good. They're based in Malta, New York. And if anybody wants to learn more about them, check out the latest episode of my podcast, Stories from a Bar. That's on all major podcast platforms. So what I like to do when I started this 4.5, almost 5 years ago, which will be this April, I like drinking and I like music. So I kind of turned that into a podcast.
Hey, two of my favorite pastimes.
I've gotten to the point where I'm doing the audio episodes now for breweries and helping promote local places and stuff like that. And I like to do these live streams with musicians and stuff and just drink and chat. And it's been fun.
I was going to say, I've caught a couple now, and it's great. And yeah, like, why not? Like, and you're right. Like, there's so much great, craft beer and breweries out there right now, really regardless of who you talk to in whatever neck of the woods. There's always going to be some great local beer there as well. So
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I've learned a lot. I've helped hopefully get the word out and all those things your parents tell you not to do when you're a kid, like don't talk to strangers, don't drink alcohol. That's what my main hobby is now, drinking and talking to strangers. And it's
right. It's I'm right there with you. You know, after a show in a a new town or a new city, it's hey, let's have a beer after the show. And yeah, I talk to a lot of strangers and meet a lot of people and drink a lot of beer. So it's par for the course.
Oh, it's awesome. It's one of my favorite things to do. Also, if you see me looking to the side, it's just because I have some notes over there. That's why.
That's okay.
I'm not disinterested in anything. I'm just
That's okay.
trying to keep track.
If you see me reaching around, it's me trying to move a cat. So
cat wrangler.
Yeah.
So who else is in the band that's not here?
So our guitar player Sean is not here, but he's in the band, obviously. Mm-hmm. We also have Darren Chuka, who's our drummer, and we also added a fourth member after we recorded this record, but he helped actually record the record. So Cody is on guitar now as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we were kind of doing some things that recording wise and music wise that we really wanted to fill out the sound a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it made sense to bring Cody on, and he's been a great addition to the band. So we're really happy to have him.
Awesome. I'll give you the same warning I gave the Trashed Ambulance guys when I talked to them. If this turns into me just drunkenly asking you about Canada stuff for the next 45 minutes, I apologize.
Hey, that's okay. That's all right. I know a bit about my country. A bit.
I live in New York, and I've only been to Canada 2 times in my life, to Montreal, once as a kid, once for a bachelor party.
Hey,
so,
I bet you that was a great bachelor party in Montreal, though.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, I live in upstate New York, so Montreal is about a 4-ish hour drive, I think, maybe a little more, depending on whatever you run into at the border. But
you should road trip that more often then. 4 hours is nothing.
Oh, no, 100%. I need to do that more. I also need to, actually, that reminds me, I need to update my license. I need an enhanced license now to cross the border, I think.
That sounds right.
I don't know if that went into effect yet, but I don't have an enhanced license, so I need to get one. But, oh man, Montreal was fun. And
Montreal's great.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and ask you, like I do any Canadian I meet ever. I assume you're a hockey fan.
I am a massive hockey fan. You are very correct.
Edmonton fan, Oilers?
Absolutely not.
Really?
As I mentioned before,
you are from the East.
I'm from the East Coast. So growing up, we have 3 choices. So like if you go to the East Coast of Canada anywhere, you're going to either meet Toronto Maple Leaf fans, you're going to meet Boston Bruins fans, or you're going to meet Montreal Canadiens fans.
Wow, Bruins fans.
And yeah, it's true. And my dad and my grandfather are both staunch Bruins fans. But I am a lifelong diehard Montreal Canadiens fan.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It was funny when we were in Montreal, we were staying at a hotel right next to where they played, and the Bruins were in town. So everyone was extra lively in the bars that night.
It gets rowdy. It gets rowdy, and I think I love that about the Montreal crowd. You know, it's a rowdy crowd. Everyone's there to have a good time, but at the same time, they're very passionate, and that really strikes a chord with me. So.
I'm a big Rangers fan. You can't really see it, but there's a Rangers scarf above my door there behind my head.
I see it.
I want to go to a game in Canada though. That's just got to be a fun experience.
It really is. Like, I mean, I've been to a few games now, here and there, and obviously living in Edmonton, and having the Oilers out here, I can't help but not follow along with the Edmonton Oilers. Like, we have probably arguably the best hockey player in the world right now on our team. So I mean, it's kind of cool to go out and watch this guy play. And as a guy that plays hockey myself, it's even like more awe-inspiring. Like, holy shit, how are you that fast? How are you that good? How are you that everything? But
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool, man. It's very passionate crowds. Everybody gets really into it. It's a lot of fun.
One funny thing I think about Connor McDavid is like he is probably the greatest player on the planet, and people have come to expect so much of him. I feel like he doesn't even make news anymore when when he's just doing really well. Like, yeah,
No, and
that's expected.
if it was if it was any other player that made some of the plays that he makes, they'd be blowing it up all over social media or anywhere else, and it's just a ho hum for him.
And I've been to Madison Square Garden twice for Rangers games. I've seen them win and I've seen them lose. Unfortunately, they lost against the Penguins when I saw them.
Ooh,
So, but yeah, that was hard to take in person. But at least I got to see Lundqvist.
yeah.
But the funniest thing about it is the last time I went, the Islanders were playing in Brooklyn when they were there temporarily. So I'm in Madison Square Garden, and I went to get two large beers, one for my girlfriend and I, and I forgot how much it was, 20, almost $30 for the two beers.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, I was looking at Islanders tickets. I'm like, I could have bought a ticket to an Islanders game for the price of these two beers.
Not shocked. Not shocked at all.
Yeah, nobody saw them in Brooklyn, but they're in their new stadium now.
Yeah, and looks great, but again, one of those places I'd like to get to, but I'd love to go to a game in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that was an experience. That was awesome. We were in the upper level both times, but the one game I went to, they played Calgary, I believe, and won. But where my girlfriend and I sat, right when you come up the steps onto the second level, you go to the side, there's these elevated seats right here, of course, with the gate in front of them. We were literally these two seats, like at this gate. And the ushers don't let you walk up the stairs to your seat while the game is in progress. You have to wait for a break.
You got to wait for the commercial because they don't want people walking down the aisles on camera. Yeah.
So there's literally like nobody in front of us. We're elevated looking over the ice. I'm like, these seats are awesome.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I was going to ask you, correct me if I'm wrong. Madison Square Garden, the rink is on like the 6th floor or something like that.
It's the 6th or 7th floor or something.
That's wild to me.
The place is so huge, man.
Yeah, and as someone that that obviously has never been, it's like, man, how do you have an arena on the 6th floor? Like, how does that work?
I mean, and the train station that just goes right into it underneath. So when I do go down to the city, I live in upstate. It's considered upstate New York, but if you were looking at like the eastern side of the state, it's kind of Albany area. It's kind of like right in the middle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could drive to Massachusetts and Vermont both within an hour, but when I go to the city, I take a train, and that is just under a 3-hour train ride.
Wow.
I'm about 3 hours from Boston. So it's almost equal distance down to New York City, but the train goes right into Penn Station, which is under Madison Square Garden. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. No, I've always wanted to go. I'm also a giant wrestling nerd. So Madison Square Garden, of course, is famous for live WWE events and things like that. So
I was big into wrestling when I was younger, going to events. I went to a number of pay-per-views with friends. I painted my chest. I remember that. Like an drunken asshole when I wasn't even old enough to drink, I think, at the time. I was just that excited.
Yeah.
And this was when Shawn Michaels was wrestling, so I was a big Shawn Michaels fan.
Yeah.
My friends just wrote HBK on our chests. We're the only idiots in this section with our shirts off. Like, kind of questioning my choices right now.
Well, it's funny. You have me questioning my choices too, because every time I talk to somebody and I'm like, oh, I'm a huge wrestling fan, everybody's like canned response is, you know what? I was a big wrestling fan when I was younger too. And I'm like,
no, man. Hey, no, I get it.
And I still watch it, and we still travel. Like, actually, Darren and I, our drummer Darren and I, and our my wife, I won't call her his wife, but his longtime girlfriend, and our tour manager Danny all went down to Las Vegas twice this year within a month to see 2 separate wrestling events.
Dude,
So
that
we're
shit's
kind of into it.
entertaining.
Yeah,
It's
it
entertaining.
really is.
I have no problem watching it. I stopped following it at one point and then just kind of lost touch.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, trust me, it's like a soap opera. It takes like 2 minutes to get back into, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's entertaining as hell. We have a great time when we go, so it's just one of our favorites.
I should probably go at least once while I'm old enough to drink, just to get that experience.
Oh, just a people watch, and really, that's I'm telling you, that is the biggest experience is the people watch, and then we do that quite a bit while we're there. So it's and especially because Edmonton is just north, like a straight shot down to Las Vegas, so we can fly to Vegas for cheap. The wrestling fans in Vegas, it's like a special breed of human. So it's really great people watching.
Yeah, I've never been to Vegas. I like to get out there. Even from New York, they do cheap flights.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in the States, it's pretty cheap to fly just about everywhere within the U.S. Is it not?
No.
No?
Only major tourist attractions, possibly. Vegas for like a 3-day weekend is probably doable. It's definitely not like Europe or any other country where you can catch a flight to anywhere for like $50.
Yeah.
3 digits, you're spending over 100 at least, but a couple hundred probably. But
Well, put it this way: for me to fly home, like to Nova Scotia on a commercial flight here in Canada, it's usually close to like $1,000.
is there? Oh, that's fucking far.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It sucks. I mean, it's like a 5-hour flight, but still, it's like holy shit. Like I just want to go home and see my folks.
Canada's massive.
Canada is massive.
So is the U.S., but still.
Yeah, but
Nova
US cities are a lot closer together, like the major cities at least. So it's like you have points of reference. So
that's true. But it's weird. Nova Scotia's probably one of the first Canadian cities somehow I learned about that, and I've always wanted to go to. It just seems like such a beautiful, tranquil, peaceful place.
It really is. Like I'm not gonna like be a homer and talk about how great my my home province is, but it's great. I mean, it's right on the coast. People are really friendly. The food's amazing. The beer's great. Everybody's just kind of there to have a good time regardless. So we're actually heading back that way in February. Old Wives are playing an Atlantic Canadian tour, so to speak. We got to be kind of careful with what we do, but we're doing three shows out there in February. So we're doing Halifax, Moncton, and Fredericton.
Nice.
In February. So, and that's the first time that Old Wives have been back or have been to the East Coast. So I'm pretty happy to get those guys back to my neck of the woods and kind of play at home for a lot of friends and family. So
yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, just watching hockey has made me want to go to all the major Canadian cities at some point. Like that's a lot of where, I mean, outside of high school or elementary school, when you're kind of learning the basics about your neighbors, there you don't really get into much of other countries and stuff like that. So a lot of it I picked up through hockey and learning on my own. But outside of Montreal, Toronto is probably about 5 hours. That's just on the other side of Buffalo.
Yeah.
And Ottawa's fairly close. I think those are the next two major cities.
Montreal and Ottawa are only about an hour and a half apart, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
So it's really close. Like between those cities, it's a real quick drive. But Toronto's a whole different animal. Toronto's obviously Canada's major city, or they think they are, anyways. Just ask them; they'll tell you.
Well, what's funny is I'm from upstate New York, where I live now. Schenectady is the name of the town that I'm in. Kind of slightly northwest of Albany, which is the actual capital of New York State, not New York City.
Right.
Which pretty much a lot of people that don't live in New York don't know that. Like so I was born and raised here, and I moved to South Carolina when I was 15, 14, right around there.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was down there for 5 years and then came back. But I tell people I was from New York, and if you tell anybody outside of New York that you're from New York, their mind just goes straight to the city.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's a whole state right above that island.
Right.
So, if I ever do go to Western Canada
Yeah.
and I make it to Edmonton for the first time, what should I know? Are there prerequisites?
Um, you know,
Anything in
Edmonton's
particular?
Edmonton's a great city. It's it's cold.
Don't go there in the winter.
Don't go there in the winter, and the winter's a long time. So like, don't come in April and think that you're going to escape the winter. You know,
Trying to get a jump start on the spring.
yeah. Don't bother. Don't bother coming until at least late June. But it's no, it's great. The city's nice. It's very compact. You can kind of get from one area to the next fairly easily. Um, and the great thing about being in Edmonton too is that we've got Calgary 2.5 hours away, which is another major city for us.
Yep.
So I mean, being in a band, it's good because I mean you can at least travel back and forth and play a different market. Whereas if we were to go to Vancouver, it's like a 13-hour drive one way, which is just brutal. And I've done it so many times.
So 13 hours from where I am now. The road trip I took back to where I lived in South Carolina, that was about 15 hours. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, it's really, a lot of it is that way just because of the mountains. Like,
Mhm.
you got to go through the Rockies to get out there. But Vancouver's beautiful. But it's it's an absolute trek to get out there. And but hey, the people are great out there. The crowds are great.
Ryan Reynolds is from there. How bad can it be?
Ryan Reynolds is from there, right? I'm pretty sure he listens to Old Wives.
Yeah, there you
Sure. Yeah.
go. How's the local music scene in Edmonton?
Music scene out here is actually pretty good. It's it's one of those things. Like, I moved out here when I was 24, and I'm older than that now. So, but when I was back home, it was it was very much if you don't sound like an East Coast band, like if you don't sound like if you're not playing a Celtic tune or a bunch of covers in your set or whatever, it's you weren't gonna fly. So when I moved out here, it was like a big eye opener because I obviously being a punk rock kid, I wanted to be in a punk rock band right away, and luckily I found my way, nosed my way into Old Wives, and have stayed here for quite a long time now. But in terms of like the music that's out here and the bands that are out here in our scene, it's very alive and well. Like,
Awesome.
there's a lot of great bands out here that do a lot of good things and play a lot of great shows, and we're just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I only recently discovered Old Wives through Instagram. I think when you guys reached out, but I've been really digging the new album, man. It's been
Thank you.
listening to it more and more as the days go on, and it's only been out a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, it has, and that's the thing too. Is here we are, like in the middle of Christmas and everything else, and we're releasing a record, which didn't come without some pushback, but we're happy that it's out. We're happy that the feedback that we've gotten so far, like I said, has been absolutely fantastic. So we're very happy. We've been sitting on this record for a little bit now, working with labels and stuff like that. It can sometimes be a bit of a chore to kind of come to an agreement with release schedules and things like that, and it's all the business side of things that you don't really see. So again, we've had this record done for a bit now, but we're very happy that it's out in the world.
I know. So I know there's been about 5 years or so since the last album, right?
Yeah.
Was that part of it?
I think COVID was part of it.
Okay.
Just being able to get into the studio and being able to, with all the regulations and things like that. And of course, just not being able to tour and not being able to play shows and make money to support it. It's like being a musician is so much a labor of love, but explain that to my wife, and when she sees the money come out of our bank account, when I'm like, hey, we got to pay for this, but don't worry, it's coming back. I just got to put a little bit of money up front. But it wasn't planned to be that long. It certainly wasn't planned to be that long, because our last album 3 was I thought really successful. I'm still a big fan of that record, and I really wanted to capitalize on it a lot quicker by having another release a lot quicker. But like I said, the pandemic really kind of hit musicians hard. So
yeah, I imagine the impact in Canada was pretty much the same in the States, since we're neighbors.
Yeah,
just about.
Yeah, it really was. Like we couldn't tour, we couldn't play shows. If you were going to play a show, like in the early goings, it was like, oh my God, like we're gonna play a show. I don't know if we should, or how's everybody feeling? Now that everything's obviously back to quote unquote normal, we're back in the swing of things, and being able to get back out on the road and play shows and make money and do what we do is just so much. We're so happy we can do it again.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Fourth full length in almost 15 years, right? As the band.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I don't know a lot about I know next to nothing about the band. So
that's cool.
Again, like I said, I only came across you guys recently, and I've just been jamming to the album the last couple of weeks. So how'd the band get together?
So I can tell you anything then.
Yeah, that's true. I believe it. Okay. Like I said, coming into this, I didn't even know what your last name was. So
it's funny, because that's the thing. Some people call me Ryan. Some people call me Dix. Some people call me Hey You, but whatever.
I like that you opened a second. I also have a backup beer for when I finish this one.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I took the, this is just a 4-pack, but I took it downstairs, and I'm in my basement right now, hence the shitty ceilings. And my wife looked at me and she was like, "You're taking all 4 downstairs?" And I said, "Well, yes."
Yeah. You need to be prepared.
I don't foresee this to be an issue. But yes, no. A bit of history about the band. I was not an original member of the band. So when I moved out here, I joined a band right away, and was playing shows with them. Not the kind of music I wanted to play, but hey, it got me out there, got me playing shows. But luckily the guys in Old Wives saw me play with that band and was like, hey, we want that guy. And brought me on to ask me if I'd be okay with switching to bass, which I was, no problem. Mm-hmm. Really just happy to be in the band. And I think it was like a month later, we were down in Lafayette, Indiana, recording a record called See You in Hell, which at that point we had another guitar player who was also the singer of the band and an original member. So, I didn't really have a whole lot to do with that record besides playing bass and singing backups. But then we started writing more. I started writing songs for the band right away, in the hopes that they would like them. Luckily, that took off, and they did like them. And we did lose our original singer. He left the band for personal reasons, and it's all good there. So I kind of took over as the full-time chief songwriter and singer of the band. So on albums like 3 and on the new album Mega Low Maniac, those are all songs that came from up here in this guy's noggin. So
nice. I did have a chance to at least give 3 1 or 2 spins. I haven't gotten that into it, but I intend to go back, and I enjoyed it. I just haven't listened to it enough to remember it.
Yeah, and in all honesty, it's sometimes I go back and listen to it as well. you know, and just kind of go back and be like, oh, okay, that was good. Yeah, okay, I remember that. Okay, cool.
Well, it's weird to discover a band that's a few albums into their existence, because I don't know when the first thing I hear is like the newest album and they have 3, 4 or more albums before that. Like, I don't know how they evolved to get to this point. I'm like,
Yeah.
so I go back, I'm like, how did they sound before this?
And we were a lot more poppier when we had our first lineup there. You know, the singer and songwriter at the time was very, you know, he was very into Ramones style, you know, pop punk, and, you know, just really kind of, you know, Ramones, Screeching Weasel, the Queers, bands like that.
Okay.
Which, you know, I'm a big fan of as well, but you know, I kind of brought my own flavor into the band, and you know, by the second album we were 50-50, you know, songwriting and singing. And then, like I said, as he took off from the band, I stepped up, and, you know, 3 was actually supposed to be another 50-50 split. I had written my 5 or 6 songs for 3. And after he left, I had to go back to the drawing board and make sure that we had, you know, more songs, enough to be a full length, because, you know, I had stuff in place. I had worked out, you know, different deals with a couple of record labels and things like that. So we had to really go to town and go to work on writing some new songs, and you know, make sure that we held up our end of the bargain.
Nice. Where'd the Old Wives name come from?
Yeah, I get that all the time, and it's weird because I wasn't a member of the original band. But
so that makes this more interesting. How are you going to answer this?
I know the story. It's and you know what? It's one of the most hated band names like out there. I swear. Like, you know, I think
you know what's funny? I forgot who I was talking to, but it was a great quote. Somebody that was in a band. It's like, everybody thinks a band name is stupid until the band's famous.
Well, that's it. That, you know, like, every band name is kind of ridiculous if you sit back and think about it.
It is, until, you know, they have a hit and they're blowing up or something like that, and then just
and then
part of it.
Then I love Insane Clown Posse. I think that's the best name.
Wow,
ever.
I wasn't gonna go there. I had Limp Bizkit in mind, but
hey, I'm a big Limp Bizkit fan. Let's those guys just chose a really bad name.
Insane Clown Posse. Wow.
Yeah, Juggalos for life.
You're missing the face paint.
Yeah. Oh man. Old Wives, to answer your question, I guess Old Wives was a name that was thought up because the guys that were in the band at the time had all kind of been like, they were all like Edmonton music scene vets. Like, they'd been around, they'd been in different bands together and stuff like that. You know, bands that have broken up and bands that have, you know, whatever. But the running gag was that they fought like a bunch of old women. So they didn't want to call the band Old Women, so Old Wives.
I like that now. All right, that makes sense.
Right? I'm happy to say we don't really fight anymore. But we're still
give it time, just like any relationship.
Hey, we complain like a bunch of old wives. Oh wait, I'm not allowed to say that either. I shouldn't say that.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear. Mega Low Maniac, 13 new songs, just came out a couple of weeks ago. So how'd you guys settle on? First off, I like the cover art.
Thank you.
Just the picture of the couch with like the party banner that says Old Wives there. Where'd that come from?
That was the three of, well, obviously Cody was, you know, semi-involved in stuff like that, but for the most part it was myself and Sean and Darren that were you know, calling the shots when it came to stuff like that. So but we did a photo shoot there. If you order the the vinyl, on the inside sleeve there's a big band picture of us on the couch eventually and things like that. But we the cover is actually pretty morbid. I'm not even gonna lie. There's no two ways around it. So it was a stressful couple of years. We had a lot of loss, a lot of death in the family, and things like that. So it just kind of, when we saw the photos back, we were like, you know what, that's such a cool photo and that's such a cool landscape. Let's kind of add these elements. Like the baseball bat was my brother-in-law's that passed away. He was a good friend to everyone in the band. The photo on the far side is actually my wife and her brother.
Oh, wow.
And on the other side, there's the stuffed toy is Darren's dog, Fievel. That was his toy before he had to have Fievel put down.
Oh.
And I believe there was a photo of Darren's mother as well that passed away within that same time frame. I don't know if it quite made it onto the edge of the cover or not, but yeah. So I mean, really, yes, it's a cool look, but you know, there's a lot going on behind it. And then
wow,
you know, we thought, you know, like let's put the party letters over the top, you know, because it's like the old wives were having a party, but you know, it's a really sad sort of. Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna look at that in a completely different way now.
Right? Sorry.
I don't know what I'm gonna feel the next time I look at the album cover. Wow.
I know. I explained it to my brother back home in Nova Scotia, and he was, you know, he was like, man, it's so cool. It's such a cool cover. And I'm like, thanks, man. And then I laid all that out, and he was like, oh, fuck.
That's fascinating, though. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of, so when it comes to writing the songs, there's 13 songs on the new album. Do you have any particular process or way that you work or the band works?
Honestly, yes and no. Like to a point. I when COVID first hit this go around, I was had a couple of weeks to myself, which was nice. I mean, unemployment wasn't nice, but I mean, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of got to work and demoed a bunch of songs, and just, you know, that was my work. You know, like I gave myself a purpose to get up every morning was to
I gotta open my backup beer. Sorry.
Open her up, buddy.
Ah, it exploded. All right. And wipe that on the sleeve. That's fine.
Right.
It's
still
not
good. It's still good.
It didn't hit the rug. I'm good.
But yeah, I would wake up every morning and just kind of head down to the basement, and because my wife was working from home at the time, so I'd head down to the basement and I would play guitar until I came up with something that I thought was decent, and then you know, send it out to the rest of the guys, be like, hey, what do you think of this? You know, and if they liked it, great. If they didn't, too bad. It was going on the record. But no, I wasn't that mean about it, but but no, like I tend to write all of the music first and then come back to it and write lyrics afterwards. Very rarely do I have something like there's a song on 3 that's called Generic Song. It's the last song on the record. That song I was going to our rehearsal space to write.
It's funny. That's the only song I can remember at the moment from 3. I didn't mean that to sound insulting, no. Kind of like it probably did. I've only listened to that album once or twice now, so.
No, and that's A-okay. But I remember going to the jam space that day, and I'm like, I got to write a song, and I'm driving, and I was like, I turned the radio off because, you know, I'm just listening, I'm just humming along to myself and trying to come up with something, and I came up with that melody and that, you know, that lyric hook, and I was like, all right, I got to remember this. And it's like a 15-minute drive to the jam space, so I'm just like singing it over and over again, humming it to myself, you know, driving, like, don't forget this, this is good, and you know. But for the most part, I just sit down and I pick up my guitar, I start playing, and you know, try to find something that I think works and sounds good to my ear anyway.
Nice. I've moved on to a Sloop Juice Bomb, which is an IPA.
Sloop Juice Bomb.
SLOOPOOP. Somewhere in New York, but it's quite tasty and it's juicy. And I have my beer cozy for it. So By
Juice
the way,
beers are juice beers are
shout
always
out
good.
to local musician Josh Casano who sent me this beer koozie. So
It's a nice one.
So except for mastering, you guys did this album pretty much all DIY, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We recorded with Greg Wright here in Edmonton, who recorded all of 3 for us, front to back. But we recorded, I think, 6 songs with Greg and another 7 songs, I think, with Cody, who, as I mentioned, is now playing guitar in the band. But so it was kind of broken up, and you don't like to do that as a musician because you get into a groove. But we were planning on just releasing a split with another band. So we just did 6 songs, and we were like, okay, cool. And then, unfortunately, things fell through with the split. So again, back to the drawing board, and time to come up with 5 or 6 or 7 new songs. So I just went right back to it and started writing some new material. But
nice. The whole I've been listening to this album probably at least once a day since it came out, just because I knew I was gonna chat with you guys and stuff like that. And the more I listened to it, the more I got into it. So, and the whole thing is great. I love the album, came out great. The sound is great. I love the sound. I think punk music is the first music I got into that kind of, I feel like, opened my mind and made me go exploring and looking for music. Like I got into it in very early teens, and up until then it was just kind of what my family fed me, what was on the radio and stuff like that. So, and it's weird, and like I told the Trash Ambulance guys, I've been on this kick going back looking for this skate punk type music that I got into, and I've just been going down this rabbit hole. I've been finding all these awesome bands, and now you guys, and the album sounds great. I enjoy all the songs. Without a doubt though, my favorite 2 are Friendly Distance and Burning Letters.
That's cool. Yeah, Friendly Distance is one of my favorite songs. I'm really happy with that one. Just the way it turned out, and it's kind of weird, this record. Like when I listened back to it, I was like I didn't write a lot of choruses this record. It's like, so we have all these songs that are just like verse, another part, and the song's over. And it's the same with Burning Letters. Really, there is no real chorus, but that was a big departure song for us, and we were really happy with the way it turned out. I
was gonna say that because it sounds like a song that stands out from the record. It stood out to me from all the other songs. Like there's just a slight enough difference to be like, all right, this one has its own thing going on.
It really does, and I don't know where that kind of stemmed from. And I remember writing it in my basement and playing the guitar part to it, and coming up with that big drastic da na 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 na. And then I was like, okay, where do I go from here? And then, it was like, okay, well, let's do this halftime thing. And, I sent it out to the guys, and I'm like, I think this is good. Like, I think this is how this should go. And I remember Darren getting back to me like right away, like, holy shit, man, like we've got to do this. Like that's, we don't do this. We're usually a pretty straightforward band. He's like, we got to do that halftime part, and it's going to be huge. So when we were recording it, it was really one of those parts where we were like, all right, we need to make this special. We need to make this stand out. And really, it really did turn out great. And you're right, as far as songs go on the new record, that is definitely, I can honestly say it's my favorite song on the record for sure.
Oh, I was going to ask you that.
You don't want to pick favorites; they're all your kids.
The most common response I've gotten when I've asked any artist type person what their favorite is when they're making something, it's like whatever the most recent is usually the answer.
Yeah. Right.
Quick side note: this is beer number 9 for me today. So if I I'm feeling pretty good.
That's good.
I also appreciate the Ace Ventura reference with Finkel as Einhorn.
Again, do you want me to make you feel like a real bag of shit about that?
Okay. I'm just drunk enough to say yes.
So the Finkel is Einhorn reference, we were kind of nervous about it because, like, obviously, you know, if you go back and watch Ace Ventura,
it also has the quick Seinfeld sound bit right before it.
It does have the quick Seinfeld right before it, and I'll get back to that one too. But the Finkel is Einhorn part, I remember sitting in the studio and I didn't have a name for that song yet, and I'm like, man, we should name it Finkel is Einhorn. And Sean, our guitar player, was like, you know, like, probably not cool with, you know, transgender, you know, like the trans rights movement. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, I understand that, but that song specifically is about my brother-in-law Dave, who passed away, and he was a big Dolphins fan. And we used to give him,
this is going downhill. Not to
So we used to give him shit about it. So he was, you know, we call him Dolphin Dave. So obviously Dolphins, Ace Ventura, Finkel is Einhorn. It just became that was kind of the running gag. But yeah, so everybody, I know, because like lots of people are like, man, I can't wait to hear that Finkel is Einhorn song. That's gonna be great. And I'm like, yeah, it's a sad one, but it's not the funny song you think it's gonna be.
Is that weird for you at all when people don't know that and they're so pumped up about it?
Honestly, no. I'm just happy that people like the music and like the song. You know what I mean? Like for me, you know, I'm up there doing what I do and, you know, saying what I have to say and you know, for stuff like that. But if people love it for different reasons, and, you know, I usually don't like to get into like what songs are about, because, you know, I like to think that I leave things a little open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of what I'm writing about on this record could be misconstrued as, you know, relationship stuff. And I don't think there's a relationship song, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, spouse song on the record. But if you listen to it and you listen to it from that lens, then you can definitely see it, and you can definitely, you know, interpret it that way. So really, I don't, as long as people listen to the record and they like the record and they're into it, I'm happier than a clam. Like, I love it.
Awesome. Getting close towards the end of the hour, but two more thoughts on the album itself. I've gotten the chorus of True Patriot Love stuck in my head more, just like out of nowhere. It just pops in I woke up one morning and I had the chorus stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if I was ranking my favorite songs on the album, it's probably like 5th or 6th. There's other songs on there I love more than that one, but something about that chorus, man.
And
the melody, I don't know.
So full clarity, that is a cover song.
Is it really?
So I did not write that song.
Oh, okay.
But that's fine. You just kind of like dropped it, like, okay.
Oh,
it's okay.
I feel like an asshole.
No, trust me. It's awesome.
No.
I would not have wanted to put that, you know.
Is it a cover of a Canadian song?
It is.
That's why I don't know it. That's probably.
And that's why. So okay. It's a cover by a band called the Joel Plaskett Emergency. And Joel Plaskett is obviously the singer of that band, and he's gone solo and done quite a few records. But he's from Atlantic, Canada. He's from my neck of the woods, and it just one of those guys that I absolutely adore. And the songs that he writes, I mean, if you go back and listen to the original now, and I'll implore you to go back and listen to the original, seek it out. It's very cool. There's a big organ part in it. It's, you know, obviously it's slower than what we do, but it's just great. And to be able to, that song's probably, like, we grew up in Canada with Much Music instead of MTV.
Oh, I remember Much Music. We got that in the States. If you had cable, you could find it.
And Much Music
it was better than MTV.
It really was. But Much Music had to play a certain percentage of Canadian content.
The Maple Leaf Law, right? Is that what it is?
I think so.
Is that part of it?
I think it has something to do with it, but that was one of those songs that, you know, when I was in like kind of junior high, coming into high school, I guess, was on much music as, you know, the Canadian content, so to speak. And it's just one of those songs that stuck with me. And when I showed it to the band, and they loved it, and we just kind of went off with this song. So yeah, no, I go listen to Joel.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go check that out now.
And yeah, he's a great singer songwriter, amazing guy, and super happy to be able to have that record, or have that song on the record.
And I really want to ask you about Day Job, because that was a really surprising and awesome surprise at the end of the album. Not what I was expecting as I'm just letting the album play for the first time and I got to it. But that song was great.
Thank you. I started. Long story short, I got asked to play an acoustic set with Chris from the Flatliners. This was probably a few years ago now. It's probably a lot of years ago.
I'm familiar with the name. I don't think I've really listened to them.
The Flatliners, they're from Ontario. They're a fantastic band. Again, if you're going to go and listen to, you know, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, absolutely amazing band, and really top-notch guys. But I got asked to open acoustically for Chris, their singer, because he was playing acoustic shows, and I stupidly said yes. At the time, I don't even think I had an acoustic guitar anymore. So in my mind, it was just an excuse to go buy an acoustic guitar. But yeah, I was doing Old Wives songs acoustic, and I'm like, you know what, I want to put a wrinkle in here, and you know, and write a strictly acoustic song. And I've played quite a few solo shows since then, and that's kind of always been a staple. So when it came time to record the album, I asked the guys, like, hey, what do you think about you know, recording Day Job and putting that on at the end? And they were super for it, and I'm so glad that it made the album and it sounds good. And I'm like, okay, cool. But you're right, it's definitely you know, we go from 0 to 60 so fast with that record, you know, with how fast it's going, and then right at the end, the last song is like, all right, let's take it down a bit. So
like, it was surprising as I was listening to the album, but and the more I think about it, it's surprising and not surprising at the same time, because a lot of punk bands do that now. They'll throw in an acoustic track somewhere, somehow, just in the mix.
Yeah, and I mean, it's I don't know, it's kind of fun. Like I said, I'm a guitar player by nature, so I mean, I recorded, you know, a lot of guitar tracks for this record. So did, you know, obviously Sean, our guitar player, recorded quite a bit. But you know, I like to throw in my 2 cents and things like that as well. So, but that one was just me and Greg Wright, who was recording. So that was just me and him at the studio, and me and an acoustic guitar. And I think I put down 2 acoustic guitar tracks and 1 vocal track, and away we went. We didn't want to do backups. We didn't want to do like overdubs. We didn't want to do anything like that. We just wanted to kind of, you know, a standalone song that you could, you know, play by yourself.
Awesome. It does make me want to try to pick up the guitar and learn it. I will admit that.
Put a capo on the 2nd fret. You're all good to go.
All right. We're close to wrapping up. We're going to go a few minutes over. Just because I only have 2 more questions I'm curious about.
Sure.
Pre-show rituals. Do you guys do anything pre-show by habit?
Yeah, we actually go through phases. So we used to do what we called a boat race, and I think I'm going to go back to boat races for this record. I think I really want to go back to boat racing.
Not motorboat, just boat.
No, okay. Just boat racing. Okay. So
just want to be clear.
So we used to drink heavily before we played, and then obviously that sucked because we, you know, got up on stage and really just shit the bed. So we tend to just kind of, you know, we drink, and this may be a bad word on this podcast, but we'll have a Bud Light or something like that, you know, like something that we can just kind of.
I don't discourage any beer.
But a boat race is a gin and soda. In a short glass with a short straw, with a wedge of lime, and you go 1, 2, 3 boat race, and you suck that thing back through a straw as fast as you can, and slam it down, and then you go play a show.
I can feel the migraine as you said that.
And you know what? My wife will kill me if I don't mention the fact that anytime she's done a boat race with the band, she's never lost.
That's why you married her.
Right? I was like, you know what? You can drink gin like a champ. You're in. You're into the Dix clan.
And a good way to wrap up this virtual happy hour. What are you currently listening to? What do you got spinning on the MP3 player?
You know what? Yeah. Hey, I do still spin records quite a bit, but
I'm a vinyl fan.
Are you?
Let's go just 5 minutes longer because I'm curious. You guys have a couple vinyl variants coming out, and I know, just enjoying vinyl myself, how much of a hassle that's got to be for bands to go through these days. There's only like one place on the planet that makes them.
We actually we had ours pressed in Calgary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 3 hours.
I was gonna ask you what the process is if you want to get those made.
It's not cheap. It's cost bands a lot of money, and we really went out on a limb this go around. You know, I joked earlier about you know, our bank accounts going down and, you know, being a labor of love. This really was. We fronted the money for the vinyl ourselves, so it's no small undertaking, but it does take a lot of time. You know, it takes months and months, sometimes on end, to get it pressed. But yeah, like I said, we found a place in Calgary. They worked with us. They were great. The variants turned out amazing. Like, one of them is like a glow in the dark purple.
Oh, wow.
And the other one is like a gold with green throughout it, which kind of matches the album cover. So, you know, just tried to stick close to, you know, some cool options for people. And honestly, album sales have been great. Like I said, people have supported us hugely, which is awesome. So
that's awesome to hear. Is it safe to assume that basically more priorities given to like bigger acts when it comes to trying to get vinyls made, at least from stories I've heard?
100%.
Okay.
100%. And that's, you know, I'll go on record and say, like, this whole, like, Taylor Swift with her like 8 different variants, and you got to buy them all, so they make a goddamn clock on the back.
Why wouldn't you?
You know, like, that really just screws up and ties up the pressing plants for bands and fans, you know, that want, you know, their music on vinyl.
What's funny is when I was thinking about that, the one scenario that always comes back in my mind, I think Ed Sheeran and Adele were releasing their albums around the same time, and one of them literally like bought the plant for like whatever plant makes the vinyls for literally like a month just to do their album.
I think that was Adele, yeah, but it's or something like that, like some story like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks because, you know, like, in the punk rock scene, it's like vinyls never went away. Almost, you know, it's always been there, and it's always been one of those big things for punk bands, and always a big revenue source as well. Like, if you can get them made, you know, great, and if you can get them pressed for cheap, cool. But it's always been a great source for sales for bands like ourselves. But yeah,
oh, yeah. I mean, I have a couple. Well, actually, what are you currently listening to? Because let's start there. I can segue this
right
to wrap things up.
You were asking that, so I'm a big fan of the new album from No Trigger. So if you're interested at all, No Trigger put out an album, I believe, not too long ago here, and that's quite a good. I'm a big fan of that record. Really and truly, I don't know. I don't listen. I listen to all kinds of music, which is kind of weird.
Not weird at all.
I know, but like, I'm a big, like, late 80s, early 90s country music fan.
Oh,
you know,
you had me until you said country. Because I was going to say, I've been listening to a lot of 80s and 80s music, and then 90s alt rock recently. And then you said country, and you lost me.
Well, I get it, but you know what? It taught me how to sing harmonies. It taught me how to really play guitar, and how to really play bass, and how to really walk some bass lines. So I got to give the devil its due. But
Yeah, right.
I've also been going back and listening to a lot of alternative music from the mid '90s. So that's I'm a big guy, yeah, big alternative fan.
I mean that was my. I was born in '83, but I think so I caught the tail end of the '90s, at least from
All
what I
right,
can
we're the
remember.
same age.
All right, excellent. But the '90s is I feel like was really my jam at the time.
100%.
So that's what I remember. That's what I feel like I grew up on when it came to music wise.
Definitely, definitely. And I know we get a lot of Green Day comparisons, and it's oftentimes I'm like, whatever. But
one of my favorite shows I've ever gone to, Green Day came to Schenectady, where I live, which is an offshoot of Albany at the best.
yeah.
And they played a college show right when Nimrod came out.
Oh wow.
They played in the field house for this local college, literally 10 minutes from where I live, where the hockey team played. And it was half full. I was in middle school.
Oh,
And
buddy.
it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'll remember it till I die. Billy Joe ripped off his pants at one point, was wearing Speedos. He climbed up the scaffold and was shooting a squirt gun.
And those are the best shows to see, a band in its prime, at a venue that, sucks for the band because, it's half full. So when you're looking out, you're like, oh shit, we didn't sell out, or we didn't do this or whatever. But for the fans, it's the absolute best experience. And I think of that every time I play a half sold out room, which is every show.
Hey, I mean, if you ever come down to upstate New York, I'll be there.
Amazing.
But tying it back together with what I'm currently listening to and the vinyl thing going on. So there's a local band that's gone more national. I don't know if you're familiar with Equal Vision Records at all. They're local to Albany, New York. A punk hardcore indie label. There's a band on them. There's one band called Young Culture.
Yep.
On it.
Yep.
They're from the area. They're getting some national attention, which is awesome to go on national tours. They just put out a new album last month. The vinyl's not coming out till like March though. So
that's the thing. So a lot of places, like a lot of bands are like, you know what, we're just going to throw the album out there, on Spotify and, all the streaming platforms. And then like the vinyl's going to come afterwards. We really wanted to do everything all at the same time. So.
Yeah. And Butch Walker is at the top of my list. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Singer, songwriter, producer.
I don't think I am, but I think I'm going to have to look that up. So.
Look him up. I feel like you'd really be... I feel like you would enjoy his material.
Yeah.
He was big into 80s shredding and stuff like that. Was in some hard metal bands and stuff like that. Then went the singer-songwriter route. Does a lot of producing. I guarantee you've listened to music that he's produced.
Guaranteed.
But yeah, he released his latest album a couple months ago, and that album, the vinyl, which I pre-ordered, is coming out in January. So I'm looking forward to that coming.
Nice. I just looked him up here, just found him, and yeah, that definitely looks like something I'll be into.
Yeah, check him out.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what I've really been getting into, and I thought I would like this more than I do, though, the 1975.
Yeah.
They just that I really like the latest single. I'm in love with you, I think is the name of it. I've been listening to that a lot. That gets some radio play in my area, and I try to go back and listen to them every once in a while. I'm like, why don't I like this more?
Yeah, I know, right? I've got bands like that too that I'm like, I go back and I try to listen to it and I'm like, God, this is good. Like, why don't I listen to this more often?
They occasionally have a song that I love, and then I go and listen to the rest of the album. I'm like, this isn't hidden like I had hoped.
Right. I know. I'm like, why do I go back to the same Metallica record like every time? Why do I keep doing this to myself?
Hey, actually, I'm kind of curious what the new Metallica album is going to sound like.
That new single's great.
I like the new single.
I just opened my phone up because I'm like, okay, what am I listening to right now? And I'm like, oh shit, the new Metallica song.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's really good.
I saw they came to town 3-ish years ago. Yeah. I was there.
Man, they're playing 2 shows in Edmonton this year at the CFL football stadium.
Canadian football, baby.
Oh God, it's terrible.
I haven't asked a Canadian this. What is Canadian football? How appealing is that to you?
Absolutely not at all.
Really?
It's garbage. Absolute garbage. I can't stand it. I'm a 49ers fan. I love the NFL, but yeah, Canadian football is like, what is happening?
I'm not the NFL fan that I used to be, but I will, and I haven't watched a game in a while, but I will. I enjoy gambling on it. I'll say that.
Hey, everybody does, I think.
Yeah.
No, we're everybody in Old Wives is a pretty big sports fan, whether it be hockey. We're all big baseball fans too, and probably more so than we should be. But and of course football. But yeah,
awesome.
It's yeah. Sorry.
Well, no, not at all. Happy hour's running a little long, so we're gonna wrap up.
Running long, man.
We're gonna wrap up. So thanks to anyone and everyone that hang out with us for happy hour. Any bands, local breweries interested in doing a virtual happy hour podcast, whatever, feel free to reach out to me on any of the Stories from a Bar social media pages. Feel free to shoot me an email, storiesfab@gmail.com. If you'd like, we can set something up. Be sure to check out and listen to Old Wives if you're not doing it already. And be sure to also like and follow all their social medias. Anything else you want to throw in there?
No. Thank you for having me. It's been great. I don't feel like I'm not half as drunk as you are, but I feel maybe
I'm going for double digits after this when it comes to beer count.
Right.
I got another beer in me. And I'm only getting to it, so it's 9:45 for me now. And I'm only getting to double digits now because I need to save beer for New Year's Eve.
Hey, no one wants to go to the liquor store on New Year's Eve, man.
They don't. So finally, I definitely have felt a difference from when we started talking to now. So finally, like, follow, and subscribe to any and all things Stories from a Bar if you are not doing it already, which I'm sure anyone watching this has. And you can find the podcast on all major podcast platforms. Happy New Year to everyone out there. Be safe if you're going out. I do believe in Ubers and taxis and whatever you need to get around safely, of course. And until the next year, the new year, cheers.
Cheers.